Stubblebine spent 32 years of his life serving the US military. At the end of his career, he was in charge of the military's entire strategic intelligence around the world. The following interview follows the process General Stubblebine underwent as he realized and was able to prove that what had hit the Pentagon was not an aeroplane. This is his story.
I'm Major General Albert Newton Stubblebine III, U.S. Army retired. And I spent 32 years in the military. And ended up as a Major General. And my last assignment, I was responsible for all of the Army's strategic intelligence forces around the world. I got sent to Korea early in my life, and I'd been there about a week. And my boss, who was a full colonel, said, report to the SINC. I said, SINC is the commander-in-chief of all forces. So I reported in and saluted, and he said, young man, you are going to redo the North Korean order of battle. Order of battle. Order of battle? I didn't have a clue what that meant. Not a clue. So we went down the same walkway that goes to the mess hall that I'd pass this Quonset hut every time I'd gone to meal. And he unlocks the door, we go in, he said, go over there and take a look. Okay. Walked over and took a look, and I said, holy smokes, because what was there was SR-71 photography. Now, for those who are not familiar, the SR-71 was an early, very high altitude reconnaissance plane. And it was taking photographs anywhere where they needed high altitude photography. I looked at this, wow, because I process my information visually. I'm a very high visual. I'm a visual kino, which is a visual that I process my information by, but I test it kinesthetically by feeling. But I'm primarily a visual. You can see the entire structure of what the North Korean Army had created on the other side of the mountain. The net result was that I did put the North Korean order of battle in perspective, presented it to the SINC before I left, and it became his tool for making decisions of where he placed his troops, what he did, how he organized for whatever was coming. Fortunately, nothing ever happened. However, he had the information from my essentially map reading, or photo reading, photo interpretation reading, so that he could make the right decision on how to handle the situation. I actually was responsible for all of the Army's strategic imagery. And when I say imagery, that's not just photo, it's radar, it's all of the different kinds of imagery that you can have. I was responsible for all of the Army's strategic units that do that kind of work. Let me fast forward now, because that brings me to the real intention of where I'm trying to go with this. 9/11. 9/11 happens. At the time, my wife and I were in Hawaii. We were attending a conference, and I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 or 3:30 in the morning, I get a phone call. And it's one of my officers. I'd retired by that time. It was one of my officers who had served under me, and a fabulous officer. And she said, "Sir, the United States is at war." I said, "See, what are you talking about?" She said, "The United States is at war." I said, "Come on, see, what have you been drinking?" She said, "Listen to me. Go turn on the television. The United States is at war." I said, I still didn't believe. I go turn on the television. Bingo, I see the towers coming down. I said, "Oh, that's a joke." I switched channels, towers going down. I switched channels, towers going down. I said, "Oh my God." So I thanked her for the information. I turned to Rima and I said, "You watch. I guarantee you right now that the information about that attack was in the system and somebody missed it." Very important. The information was there to know that that attack was coming, and somebody didn't see the signals. And that's from my own personal intelligence background. All of my experience after that in the intelligence world tells me that when something that big goes by, somebody missed the information. So I was a believer, absolute believer, that the attack was a terrorist attack, that it was all done by other forces. And after that periods, my wife began to put pieces together, and she said, "I don't think that attack was done by the enemy, the terrorists that you indicated." I said, "You're wrong." She said, "I don't believe it." I said, "You're wrong." And so she began to find bits and pieces of information, and she would present them to me, and I said, no, not my government. My government would not tell a lie like that. And I just disbelieved. I was so ingrained in my belief system that I could not believe, I literally could not believe that anybody but a sort of Arab terrorist could do something like that. And then one day, I saw a picture. It was a photograph of the Pentagon and the hole in the Pentagon. And I looked at it and I said, wow. And then I looked at it again. I said, something's wrong. Something's wrong with this picture. Then I kept looking at it. And then I began to not look at it just at a glance, but to study the photograph itself. What's wrong with this picture? Why is your belly saying, my kinesthetic aspect of my processing system saying something wrong with that picture? Well, there was something wrong. And so I analyzed it, not just photographically, I did measurements, I did all kinds of it. I checked the plane, the length of the nose, where the wings were. I did all of the measurements. I took the measurements of the Pentagon, the depth of the destruction in the Pentagon. Conclusion, airplane did not make that hole. I went public at the time. I am the highest ranking officer, I believe, that has ever gone public. That whatever that story was, the official story, was not true. Now, I was very careful to not say what it was because I couldn't prove it. I was careful to say it was not the airplane that did that, because I can prove that it was not the airplane. In the hole, however, was a turbine. Looked like the turbine from a missile. I can't prove that, I don't know, but there was something there that did not look like the engine from an airplane, but did look like a turbine from a missile. Later, I saw another photograph of one of the sensors on the outside of the Pentagon. Now, all of the sensors had been turned off, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? That day, why would all of the sensors around the Pentagon be turned off? Ooh, that's strange. I don't care what the excuse is, that's strange. There happened to be one that apparently did not get turned off, and in that picture, coming in, flying into the Pentagon, you see this object. And it obviously hits the Pentagon. When you look at it, it does not look like an airplane. Later, sometime later, after I'd gone public, that imagery was changed. It had, it got a new suit around it that now looked like an airplane. But when you take the suit off, it looks more like a missile, not like an airplane. Let me go back to the next, I think, very important piece of information. The amount of energy required to melt the girders, the steel in the tower, cannot be gotten to a melt point with the fuel that was in the airplane. Not possible. So any melting did not occur as a result of the hit from the airplane. Point. I call it dot, okay? Dot. When you look at the tower coming down, what you see are at each floor successive puffs of smoke. Puff, 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 all the way down. What are the puffs of smoke coming from? Well, they claim they're from the collapsing floors. No, no, no. Those puffs of smoke are controlled demolitions. That's exactly what they are, because that's exactly how they work. And so the fact that the airplane hit, it did not cause that collapse of the building. The collapse of the building was caused by controlled demolition. Fact. Building 7. Silverberg, I believe is the name of the owner, was on video, on a video, and you could see Building 7. You could literally see it. And there was a fire in Building 7. There's no doubt about that. No airplane hit it. I assume that the fire came from some debris, but I'm not even sure of that. But in the lower right-hand corner of the building was a fire. Not a very big fire, didn't appear to be out of control, certainly was in a small part of the building. But then he is heard on the video, okay? And he says, "Pull it." And then the building collapsed. What does pull it mean? What do the words pull it mean? Let me tell you. That's the order for controlled demolition. That is the phraseology that's used for blowing up something. And that's when Building 7 blew up. I understand, I can't prove this, but I've heard that he had just reinsured the building for damages caused by such things as airplanes hitting it or some objects hitting it that had not been in the original contract. Now, I can't prove that. I don't know, but I've heard that. There was another data bit. All of the air defense systems in that part of the country had been turned off that day. All of the air defense systems had been turned off. Why? Apparently because the vice president was out in Colorado and he ordered them turned off. Why would you turn off all of the air defense systems on that particular day unless you knew something was going to happen? It's a dot. It's information. But strange that everything got turned off that day. Dot. There was an exercise that was designed for the air defense systems that was an attack on the towers by airplanes. Isn't that strange that we had an exercise that mimicked what really happened? Strange that we had planned an exercise that was exactly what happened. And at the same time, the air defense systems were turned off. Don't you find that strange? I find that weirdly strange. Dot, yeah, just a piece of information. But how does it correlate with everything else? See, so you see the dots. You have all of these dots. They're just bits of information. But that's exactly how the intelligence world works. You get a bit of information here, you get an information here, a bit here, and a bit here, and pretty soon you've got a picture. To me, what does the picture say? Picture says that what we heard and were told in the newspapers, the media, was not the real story. If there's enough doubt in the official story where the stories are absolutely not consistent with what happened, that they paint a different picture than the one that was given to the media, how easy is it for you to shift your belief system from I totally believe in my government to, oh my God, what's going on? And that's exactly where I went in all of this. Because my belief system is so strong from age 5, when I can remember, standing on the parade ground at attention, with not anybody telling me to do that at West Point. I did it because I wanted to do it, because I believed. And then going to the military academy, serving, defending. The real story was, or I have a question, I guess. The real story to me is, who was the real enemy? Who participated in this? Who planned this attack? Why was it planned? Were the real terrorists the people in Arab clothing? Or were the real people that planned this the people sitting in the authority in the White House?
The debate surrounding the official story of September 11 is over. The facts are there for anyone who cares to do their research. We need to start asking ourselves another question. If our governments are capable of carrying out such a horrific act against us, what else are they capable of?